let's get it revved up with what's talked about most concerning Texas football is that C.J. Baxter went down, then Christian Clark. I don't know how much he was going to factor in, but he went down just a few days later. And so alarms are sounding across the country concerning Texas and who's going to play running back. But we know one guy for sure.
Yeah, Jaden Blue's going to be the starter now. I thought he's going to be the starter anyways, personally. I liked him a little bit better than C.J. Baxter, but it was going to be like 55-45 when we talk about carry percentage-wise. So it was going to be pretty close there. I'm not really worried about the running of the running backs. I'm worried about the pass blocking now. And those pass protection situations, are you able to pick up those blitzes? Are you able to pick up exotic blitzes? We're going to know that pretty quickly because guess what? Week 2, Michigan, week Martindale in the NFL, he loved the blitz. He was the inventor of that defense. He's going to love the blitz week 2. So I think that's going to be interesting how Jarrett Gibson picks those up. I think Trey Wisner, who he's going to be listed as the backup. I don't think at the end of the year we're going to look back and he has the second most carries. He just doesn't have the body built for that. He's more of a hyped up version of Keelan Robinson. I think that's what you'll see out of him. I think Jarrett Gibson is going to have to grow up quickly, but this is a guy that comes from IMG Academy, which is basically a football factory down there in Florida. Fourth running back in the class last year coming out. And I think he's going to have a good freshman season. He's built like a tank. He's 5'10", 205, 210 pounds. So can he pick up the blitzes? I think he has the body to be able to pick up the blitzes. Is he able to see what's in front of him to pick up the blitzes is the more important part. We'll have to see. And that's obviously a big question mark now. I made the comment where we weren't going to win the national championship because of C.J. Baxter or get there. But he was definitely going to play an integral role in that, obviously being either the starting running back or sharing carries with Jaden Blue. So it definitely hurts, but I think it just puts more on Quinn Ewer's shoulders now.
I saw a few overreactions from national publications that I would expect a little more sense out of, that basically Quinn Ewers is just going to have to throw the ball 50 times a game. You don't win a national championship throwing the ball 50 times every game. I understand maybe leaning that direction just slightly, but you got to be able to run the ball, and you've got a great offensive line.
Yeah, 100%. The offensive line is looking really good in camp. We got another little scare at the scrimmage yesterday. Jake Majors came out in a walking boot, and everyone freaked out immediately. But anyone that's been following Texas under Steve Sarkisian, literally if you cut off your pinky toe or whatever, you lose the nail on your pinky toe, you're getting a walking boot. So it doesn't matter what the injury is. If it's gangrene, you get a walking boot. If it's what is that? The pinky nail gone, you get a walking boot. Did you lose me, Mark?
We still have your audio, Matthew. You have just frozen in a position that looks good. If you can see yourself there, you're making a point, but we can hear you.
Okay.
So we are good to go unless you want to disconnect real quick and jump back in.
Oh, you're good as long as you can hear me. That matters.
Okay.
But it's just precautionary. It's a high ankle sprain. If the game week was this week, he'd be able to play. He'll be able to play come Colorado State. Now, maybe they hold him out versus Colorado State because no offense to Colorado State. It's Colorado State versus Michigan, or it's Colorado State first week and the Michigan second week. And Kyle Flood said at the beginning of the show, beginning of the spring practice or fall practice, he said, we have 7 guys we trust. He said Neto, Cole, and then the starters along with that are the 7 guys he trusts. They're going to rotate the guards a lot this year, not just because they think that's a weakness or anything. It's because they think those guys are really good and they deserve playing time. So you're going to have 7 guys play at the offensive line position. It kind of reminds me of Michigan last year where they kind of said the same thing. We have 7, 8 pros, and Texas has 7 pros this year. So they're going to play a lot of offensive linemen. And I think it's going to matter the certain situation too. We'll have to see. I'm not saying, I know we talked about it. It was pretty funny. Vanderbilt, where they're going to rotate based on like, hey, if they're really good on this play, we're going to put them in. You know, that's a tell. It's more of pass, run, maybe, or red zone. They'll use a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at this again, but the way it reads in one of the major publications, I believe it was Athlon's, is that Vanderbilt has determined that who their 2 best offensive linemen are, and they're just going to be, we're running right, boom. They're going to play right guard and right tackle this play. We're running left, or we're going to throw this. So we're going to move them over there.
As I know Tim Beck very well, as an offensive play caller, this does not surprise me that he's doing that because no offense to him, he's a fantastic recruiter. I don't think he's very good at calling plays. We'll just
you got to be pretty thin to have that approach too. Like these are the only two guys that can block anybody on our team. All right, we've got Matthew Miller here talking Texas football. And if I've got it right, I did see the note on the player you're talking about in the walking boot. He's the starting center who's like a fourth-year senior, correct?
Yeah, Jake Majors, fifth-year senior, good player. And they've talked about that in the scrimmage too. They put all the running backs are in green jerseys now. They were not touched, basically, as soon as the play bounced outside of the tackles, you could not touch them. So inside, you could hit them. You couldn't take him to the ground. You could hit him. But outside of that, you're not allowed. And I think Steve Sarkisian talked about this in one of his press conferences after practice. You don't need a starting 22 anymore. You need a starting 44 because of how long the season is. You need 44 guys you can trust. And that's why we've seen a heavy rotation at every position group through the fall camp for Texas. All 6 wide receivers are playing a lot. They're having every guy other than Ryan Wingo, and I think it's because he's a freshman. They don't want to put too much on his plate, rotating from outside to inside. Every one of those guys is getting outside or inside reps. They were playing a lot of running backs even before the injuries, obviously rotating offensive linemen. And then the thing that didn't surprise me, because I told you after SEC Media Days, Mark, I said Jalen Gilbo is going to be the breakout star. He seems to have taken Jahdae Barron's inside job at the nickelback. And Jahdae Barron's a really good player at the nickelback position. But again, I always thought Jahdae Barron, if he's coming back, is going to play safety, cornerback, and nickelback, kind of rotate to pump up his NFL stock. Because if he truly just wanted to play nickelback, he could have went in the NFL, been like a 5th-round pick. I think he wanted to bump that up a little bit. So I think he'll actually probably end up being the starting cornerback. So a lot of this is just, it's interesting. The one big word Sark preached the whole offseason: versatility, versatility, versatility. And you see all these guys playing a lot of different positions and a lot of different formations, trying out everything. And him saying he wants 44 guys to go, I think he really means it. And with these injuries, he's kind of toned down practice to the point of, hey, I'm kind of taken away from my NFL stuff. In the NFL, these guys don't really hit each other that much during practice. That's why you see, no offense, the first 3 to 4 weeks of the NFL is a terrible product to me because they didn't play preseason. They didn't really practice, and they're basically just getting out the jitters and everything out there in the first couple of weeks. So could Texas probably struggle earlier on in the season? Yeah, that could definitely happen, and that could come back to hurt the Michigan game. But then overall, late in the season, you're healthier. You're clicking on all cylinders, and in a 12-team playoff, I think that probably matters more. Yeah, I could see that as well.
Folks, please like the video, subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. As you see right there, Matthew hosts our Texas show. It's every Monday. It's Monday, folks. Guess what? Monday. So it's tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you love Texas, obviously that's the choice to make. If you hate Texas, that's the choice to make. You know what? If you don't care about Texas, if you're neutral on Texas, but you love college football, you got to keep up with this team.
Hey, and especially tonight, because I have predictions. It's all predictions tonight.
People love predictions, tearing up predictions. We're going to do our prediction show on Thursday, everyone. But Matthew's got his picks tonight. So I'm going to take on a topic that you may or may not have seen that I believe I discussed here, but I also posted a video on this. And I don't expect you in any way to defend Texas because I don't think that they're marching into the SEC offense or office demanding an easy schedule. But to compare their schedule to Oklahoma's schedule is just, it's insane, the difference. I don't think that any league should be processing schedules that have that much disparity to them.
No, and I think it's funny the way they did it because it ended up perfectly for Texas. So I guess they took the last 10 years win percentage wise is how they came up with the schedule. So your schedule was harder, the better win percentage you had or whatever. They tried to even it out. I forget. It was one of the two. And obviously Oklahoma has been the much better program the last 10 years. And then Texas, kind of last year and then the year before was building towards being better. And then now I think Texas does have a better roster overall. And I'm not saying a lot. I think Texas probably has the fourth best roster. I think Oklahoma is somewhere in the 8 to 10 range. But yeah, and then they get the schedule that they do. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Obviously, if we're just talking SEC, it's pretty clear. It evens out slightly, Michigan. But
Sure.
yeah,
They don't play anyone. Yeah.
no, they play
Outside
literally
the
no one
conference.
outside of conference. But yeah, it's really hard. Like you said, I think Texas A&M would be their second easiest game. It's probably our second hardest game, maybe our third, but still, I mean, it's crazy. They definitely do have a hard schedule, and they're also probably one of those teams we talk about. If Florida goes 9-3, if they go 9-3, they probably have a debate to sneak into the playoff.
So you've mixed it up with the Michigan guys a few times. Has anything that they've had to say? Because I would say, just my own barometer in talking to the fans here every day, that was considered to be a slam dunk Texas win after the national championship game and after the NFL draft. Even though Texas lost 10 players, Michigan lost 13, and obviously the quarterback and more star players. So, has anything that you guys have talked about caused you to be more concerned about this game?
No, because like really early in the offseason, like basically a month after the championship game, I kind of thought that way. But then I started looking at the roster and realized who they have coming back. And I'm like, this game's not going to be easy because their defense, in my opinion, is the best in the country. They have basically what we had last year on the interior, but they have that with the best cornerback in the country on the outside. So it's definitely going to be hard. The thing I do hate, though, is I guess it's because you have to do it. But I hear a lot from Michigan fans is, well, people said this last year. They do not have the same team as last year. You can't just use that as a reasoning is because of last year. You don't have J.J. McCarthy. You don't have Jim Harbaugh. You don't have a lot of those guys on offense. You don't have some of those guys on defense. This isn't the same year. It's not copy, paste, and repeat. That's not how this works. Even when Georgia went back-to-back, it was a different-looking Georgia team and a different path they took, and they weren't as good. But guess what? They still won the national championship. If that's your argument, that's fine. But you can't just say it's going to turn out the same way just because you have a system in place. That's not how this works. And it's going to be interesting because I went back and thought about it. So my point when I do go on that show is probably going to be about how I thought Ohio State last year protected Kyle McCord pretty well. Am I wrong on that, Mark?
No, you were not.
And I think
protected.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Texas' offensive line is just as good at that. And I don't think anyone in any comment section on YouTube, unless they're just like Kyle McCord's father, would argue that Quinn Ewers is worse than Kyle McCord.
No.
So I think Quinn Ewers, if he has that time, will be able to dice up that defense. And I know you have really good players, but the thing is, we've seen this throughout history. When a really good quarterback, or at least a good quarterback, has time to throw the football, they're able to make plays. The reason Michael Penix was not able to make plays versus Michigan, he had no time in the pocket. He was constantly moving either up in the pocket or side to side in the pocket, and it did not work out for him. If he had time, and if he actually threw the ball as well as he did versus Texas, or even 75% like he did versus Texas, Quinn Ewers will be able to make plays. I also think Steve Sarkisian, with this much time to prepare, does a really good job. We saw that in the Alabama game. And I made the point with TJ, and he agreed with me on this. The first game for these teams, take nothing away from it. When Texas plays Colorado State, it's not the same. When Michigan plays Fresno State, it's not going to be anywhere near the same. These guys are going to hold all their bullets in their chamber. They're going to play very vanilla. I remember when Texas played Rice last year, and I overreacted. I said, what the hell is this? If we play like this, we're going to get killed by Alabama. The next week, it's nowhere near the same team. And I'm like, oh, it's because Steve Sarkisian just didn't give a crap about Rice. He was preparing for Alabama the whole time. It's going to be the same thing with Colorado State. Colorado State will probably put up points because guess what? They have a pretty good quarterback. They have an NFL wide receiver, and they have Jay Norvell, who's a pretty good play caller. And this is their big game. This is like Texas versus Texas, or this is like Michigan for Texas. This is how big of a game it is for them. So I expect Colorado State to probably score 21 to 24 points, probably score through the air a decent amount, and people are going to overreact to that. Don't overreact. Wait till week 2.
Moose making a comment that he was picking Michigan before the running backs got hurt, and now he's even more confident. The only thing I would ask Moose to do is probably line up his actual prediction record on Michigan games over the last decade versus what their actual record is. I would like to know how many times he actually, in fact, picks Michigan to lose games.
Well, and also on that point, I've seen that point made by Michigan fans. So you thought we were going to run on you is what you're saying. You didn't think that before. Come on, man. The only difference you could make in that point is we're going to be able to get to Quinn Ewers now because the guys can't pick up blitzes. If that's your point, I can't say anything to that because I haven't seen other than one guy in Jade Blue pick up blitzes consistently. The other two guys I don't know about. But running, we probably weren't going to be able to run versus Michigan anyways. It was probably going to be exactly what it was like versus Alabama. I think we averaged like 3 to 4 yards per carry just to keep you honest and then attack you over the top.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.